Welcome back, aliens. This is Navin Reddy from Telusko Alex, and in this video we'll talk about access specifiers. Hold on. In Java we don't have anything called access specifiers. We have access modifiers. So if you're coming from C++ background, you might be knowing about specifiers, right? We have private, we have public, we have protected. But in Java we don't have specifiers. We just have modifiers. So we'll talk about modifiers here. We'll talk about, we have already talked about final, we have already talked about abstract. In this video we'll talk about public, protected and private. So we'll start with class, okay? We'll talk about variables later, we'll talk about class first. So if we talk about class, the only modifier you can use with class is final, abstract and public. You cannot use private, you cannot use protected class. If you have an inner class, then you can use private. Otherwise, you cannot use private keyword with class. We can also keep that stuff blank. So we can remove public also. We can say only class A. So we can have public class A, we can also have class A, right? The difference is if you write just class A, not public, it will be called as default class. By default, the default is the access. Okay, that's weird, right? Let's make it private. You cannot do that, right? Because you cannot make a class private. And you can see if you mention any illegal modifier there, if you make it private class, you can see there's an error which says illegal modifier. That means that public or that private is a modifier, not the specifier. Private is only specific class. Default is only specific package. Now what about public? From any package, doesn't matter, any class, any package. What about protected? So if you make any variable as protected, it can be used only in the subsequent classes. So let's say we have class B which extends class A. Now class B can access that variable. Sounds good?
Java Access Modifiers, the three most boring words in the English language. I'm going to show you what Java Access Modifiers are today, and they're actually not as bad as you think. Hey, what's up? I'm Alex. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I make a Java tutorial just like this one every single week. I've got like 30, 40 Java tutorials just like this one on my channel. So if you're new here and you might be interested in seeing a new one every week, then consider subscribing. So first, we're in Eclipse. I'm just going to go to File, New Java Project to start it off. I'll call it like Access Fun, hit finish, open it up, and we're gonna create two packages here. So on the source folder, go to new package, and we'll call this like package 1. Right click on source again and go to new package again, and we'll call it package 2. And this is all about setting up and learning what these access modifiers are going to do for us. So in package 1, we'll go to a new class, and we'll call it access 1. We'll make another one called access 2, say access 2, and then hit this public static void main checkbox, hit finish. And then the last one, in the second package, go to File, New Class, and we'll call this one Access 3. Just like that. Close out Access 3, and we'll just look at 1 and 2 right now. So right now, this Java file and this Java file look a little different. This one has this main method in here, and this one doesn't. The only reason we're doing that is so that we can see what these access modifiers are going to do for us. Say Access 1 is going to act like a clock. It has some data. It's got hours. It's got minutes, but all that information is practically useless if it can't share it between other files. Access modifiers let us give access to other files about the data. So we can create some integers here, say hours and minutes. Say int hours equals, say 3. And we've got some minutes here, say equal to 47. There are 4 types of Java access modifiers. The first one, I'll just write a comment, is default. The second one is public. The third one is private. And the last one is protected. Each of these changes access for different files, but we're going to start at default. The default is what happens when you don't do anything. And since we did int hours here and int minutes here without doing anything else, it's using the default access modifier. So if we save it, and try to access it through access 2 by creating the access 1 object. So say access 1, A equals new access 1, just like this. We can get the data the hours and minutes from this access1 file by now just typing a dot, and then you'll see hours and minutes. You'll also see these green circles. These are just methods that are built into every Java class. So these are nothing special, but we do see these hours and minutes from this file. So I can just type hours now and print that to the screen, and we should get 3. Yeah, and we've got that 3 there. If I copy this and put the minutes on, minutes, then we'll get 3 and 47, the data from this file. And that's with the default access modifier. That lets everyone see all data. There aren't any restrictions. Everyone can see it. This is default. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this. Default gives access to everything in that package, but not to the other packages. So you can see now, since we don't have anything in front, it's the default. It won't let package 2 see any of it. Now let's move on to public. To use these other 3 access modifiers, you have to put them in front. So for default, we didn't put anything in front, but for the other access modifiers, we have to put them in front. So we'll just say public for each. Now, if we save and run it, it does the exact same thing. If we remove these, and then put that dot again to bring it up, we see the hours and minutes again. Except now they're these little green circles. They weren't blue triangles like before. The blue triangle means a default access modifier, and this green circle is the public. It might be different on different IDEs, but in Eclipse, this is how they do it. What you need to know about public is that it's pretty much the same. So the only difference between default and public is that public, you write it in front. It sort of helps you keep track. And this works the same across packages. So Access1 and Access2, these 2 files were in the same package or folder. If we go into this other folder, package 2, we can do the same thing. So I can just copy and paste that over. Notice how it auto-generated this import statement going into package 1 and the file access1 to bring that code into this program. If we save and run this, then we'll get 3 and 47, even though they're in different packages. So we went over default, we went over public, and now let's do private. So let's change these to private and see what happens. As soon as we did that, we got some errors in the other 2 files. This is because they no longer have access. We changed the access from public, everyone can see it, to private. Only Access1 knows about hours and minutes. This doesn't even know that they exist. So if we do dot, we don't see any hours or minutes in here. So that's what private does. It keeps it private to just this file. Lastly, we have protected. So if I change this to protected, and go to Access2, if we do a dot, then we see hours and minutes again. Except now they have a little yellow diamond. If we click it and do hours and minutes, save it and run it. Oh, I'll fix some errors. In this one, let's delete that. We run Access2, then we still get the minutes and hours. And that's because they're in the same package. If it's protected, it gives access to everything in the same package. But if it's in a different package, then it doesn't have access. So if I do a dot in the Access3 file, which is under a different package completely, it doesn't even know about it. But if I do a dot again here, a dot hours, it does. So protected changes access based on what package you're on. But there's also one very important part about protected. It only lets other packages know about the data inside of it if it's related to the original class. So if Access3 is related to Access1, then it should be able to see it. Another way of saying this is if Access3 extends Access1, this means if Access3 is a subclass of the original. I'm not going to talk about that too much today, but it just basically means they're related. If I now do access 1, it still gives errors because we can't get the original still. It has to be accessed through the subclass. So if I change this to access 3, then everything is fine and dandy. And we can do the same thing inside of access 2 now. We can get access 1 and access 3. If something different, then it does both. I'll just make this a little less confusing now. I know I'm doing a lot. And this works for methods as well. So if we have a public method that gets hours, get hours, and it returns the hours, then in access 2, we can instead do a dot get hours now. And that will call that code and return the number of hours, just a different way. If we did nothing, then that's the default access modifier, and it'll act just like public. If we do private, if this is a private method, then we don't have access to that anymore. But if it's protected, then we have access to it because it's in the same package. But if we try to do this inside of access 3 here, change that to 3, then we can, even though it's in another package, because access 3 is related to access 1 by doing this extends. And I'll run it. Yeah. So default is access within the package. Public is access everywhere across all the packages. Private is only the file, so I can do privates. We'll do private together, change all these to private. And now nothing else can see it. And protected, the last one, gives access within the package, and if it's accessed through a subclass by doing extends the original. So I hope this was helpful on Java Access Modifiers. If it was, please leave a like. Share with a friend if you think it might help them. I know I struggled a lot with these, so it might be useful. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.